And a very good morning to you all, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. It's a true pleasure to be with you today. This global movement for a more sustainable, better world is something we all adhere to. And from a female perspective, we're going to share some observations today about decision-making breaking through the glass ceiling in Europe. We do have an international audience, so I'm very pleased to welcome Julia Tsetis. She's the CEO, chairman of Unipharma SA and Temet SA. We have NINO KVERNADZE with us from Ajara Group Hospitality, EIRA Thomas from Lucara Diamonds from Canada, and Tatiana ESPINOSA de los Monteros from Telefónica in Spain. What's so interesting to note is that the United Nations Compact, of course, is looking to become and to help all of us, individuals, shareholders, stakeholders across the globe, to become a more sustainable and safe environment also for women. And internationally, this is really something which has caused attention the past years. Over 6,000 CEOs have actually adhered and signed up to the women's empowerment principles. And those principles the 7 principles lay out a basis for companies to become better and more sustainable in the field of diversity and inclusion, and especially in women empowerment. Now, we have today a very distinguished panel. It's an all-female panel, which of course is truly nice to notion that we have so many female leaders across the globe who are already in such important positions. But it's also, of course, important to know that our male colleagues are just as important. So I'm happy to welcome a lot of our male colleagues from around the globe, from either local UN Compact organizations, but also from stakeholders, governments, and businesses. So thank you for being with us. Now, let me start with asking the first question to Julia. Julia, you have actually made a fantastic career. And we're going to discuss today the glass ceiling. Now, you are a CEO of a pharmaceutical company, sector and industry, which is often, as we can see, dominated by men, and traditionally dominated by men, although we do see some light at the horizon with more female leaders being responsible. And you seem to have personally shattered the glass ceiling. So can you give and share with us some of your own experience and observations on how you did it?
Thank you for having me here. Personally, I had no ceiling to break to reach the top management because I'm a third generation pharmacist. And however, to become and to remain successful, I had to exercise certain skills. The first boost was given from my family. My father instilled in me, and my mother is a very good role model with her dynamism and active role as a pharmacist. And me as a pharmacist in trade, I believe that I was able to approach work, growth, and people with a therapeutic and holistic perspective. However, I truly believe that I care about people, and if you care about people, then people became your driving force. Another skill that I try to bring to the table is perseverance. I would never retreat in front of difficulties. Difficulties push me forward rather than hold me back. As well, I don't see women as having special skills because they are women. I see that women are just like men, bringing skills depending on their qualifications and personality. Personality and qualifications have no gender, Margaret.
Yeah. Now, Julia, I really like your observations. You mentioned you're from Greece, which is, I've been often to Greece, very nice. So you mentioned your care for people, that definitely implies empathy. You mentioned perseverance, which implies motivation. And of course, you also mentioned that, there are, of course, masculine and feminine traits to leadership, but I really appreciate that you're saying, like, I don't want to make a difference. I want to be a good leader, and that's why I'm here. Nino, you're actually joining us today from Georgia. You're the executive director of Ajara Group. That's a hotel group, fantastic. And interestingly, you signed up to the Women's Empowerment Principles a few years ago, your company, so congratulations. You're one of the CEOs of the over 6,000 CEOs who did. And why do you think such a public commitment is so important to the top? What are your observations?
Well, first of all, hello everyone. As mentioned, I'm NINO KVERNADZE, the Executive Director of Ajara Group Hotels. Before I jump into the question, I'd like to kind of introduce our group. Ajara Group is a leading Georgian company which has been establishing and managing hotels, restaurants, and bars around the country since 2010. And this is Georgia, the country in Europe, just to be clear, because a lot of people think it's Georgia, the state. Recently, we've added a new business direction, developing various co-working and other festival expo spaces within the country. And we currently manage 6 hotels in various regions within the country and are planning on opening 3 new hotels in the next few years. And if any of you have not been to Georgia, I strongly encourage all of you to come visit and obviously stay at one of our hotels now that you got to know me. As for the question, Ajara Group has been, as you mentioned, one of the first women empowerment principles signatory companies since 2016, and we are proud of being an advocate for equality and equity in our employees. And we believe that our executive leadership's a public commitment to women's empowerment principles enables us to integrate gender equality and inclusivity in our business operations as well as our strategy, which both are very important. And then we regularly communicate from our C-level management and we raise awareness about the subject, and we establish a mindset that prioritizes inclusivity, gender equality, equity, not only in our team members, but we also among our company partners and in supply chain and in our stakeholder communities, which is also very important for us. It's not just our team, but it's who we work with and who our stakeholders are. And I feel like the most important thing that the women's empowerment principles guided us was to not just talk the talk, which is also always easy to just talk the talk, but walk the walk and actually action and make differences. So all of Ajara Group's directions, so there's 3 main directions that we have that I mentioned previously, are led by female executives, including myself. I run one of the directions. In regards of our employees, 50% of our middle management employees are consisted of women. Over 70% of our executive management team is consisted of women, and our overall employees, we have 1,500 employees, over 45% are women. And it's also important to mention that we're challenging gender stereotypes by hiring men and women for male and female dominated positions, which is also something that we've always worked on, like IT, engineering, security, housekeeping, whatnot. We don't differentiate genders, and we hire both genders, and it's very important that we keep that balance in both directions. And I can proudly say that we have no pay gap when it comes to genders and no glass ceiling.
Nino, fantastic statement on what your company actually consists of, and fantastic to hear you say, walking the talk instead of only talking. So putting thought leadership into actionable leadership, very much appreciated. I'm just wondering, I'm just going to engage the audience a little bit. Everybody's from around the globe, so do let us know in the chat where you're from, because it's interesting. We have a very international panel here, but we will be interested to know where you're from so we can appropriately engage with you in discussions. I'm from the Netherlands, and SDG 5 is a very important SDG for the Netherlands. We're still not there, so the Dutch UN Nations Compact makes a huge effort, but also programs. And IRA, that's the question I would like to pose to you. You're from Canada, so we have an international environment. I'm looking, wow, guys, China, Georgia, Belgium. Let me know where you're from. Wow, Madrid, India, Tokyo. So we have a true international audience, and we're actually talking Europe today, but we're going to make it really a little bit more international. Brazil, fantastic, really nice. Ira, you're from Canada, and you've actually put some target equality initiative programs in place. Can you a little bit share with us what you did and why it was so successful? And also, what were the challenges? Help us a little bit with not only the good talk, but also help us to go through what challenges you experienced and how you overcame them.
Absolutely, Marguerite. Thank you. And it is a pleasure to be here with such an esteemed panel. I am the CEO of Lucara Diamond Corporation. We are a Canadian company, but our flagship asset is situated in north central Botswana. And we have just celebrated our 10th anniversary for continuous mining operations at Karowe, which is renowned for its production of very large, high-value diamonds. So Lucara has been recognized in Canada's Globe and Mail's Report on Business Women Lead Here for the past 2 years, with 43% of our board of directors, 75% of our corporate executives, and over 31% of our workforce being women. We are well above our peers in our industry. We're really actually almost double when it comes to total workforce participation by women. But our goals and ambitions, however, are really focused on continuous improvement. There is always more to do in this arena. Participation in the Target Gender Equality Initiative provided us with the opportunity to learn more about how to promote education, training, and professional development of our female workforce, as well as in our community initiatives and advocacy efforts. I do want to point out, like NINO and Ajara at Lucara, there is no gender pay inequality within Lucara or in Botswana. Men and women are paid equally when doing the same job. That being said, many of our lower skilled and lower paying positions within our company are held by women. So we are developing initiatives focused on our lower skilled workforce in the areas of education and training and aimed at really providing opportunities for future advancement. We are working to ensure that professional development and opportunities are not just provided to our skilled workforce or those being considered for succession planning.
So that's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really important. And, you know, we've had examples, for example, of women working in house cleaning that have actually been promoted into programs where they are actually involved now in health and safety positions. So it's something that we're looking at very, very seriously. Another thing that we've done is that we've added maternity and paternity policies and programs that provide for full pay for our female employees for 6 months, which is twice the legal requirement for both duration and pay in Botswana. We also offer 2 weeks of paid paternity leave, which is also not legally required in Botswana. Another focus for our company has been addressing the heightened increase in gender-based violence in Botswana, particularly through the COVID period. We introduced a gender-based violence campaign at our Karowe mine for all of our employees and contractors and across the TSETI subdistrict in which we're operating, covering a total of 19 villages in the region. We helped establish and manage these gender-based violence committees throughout the sub-district and facilitated the provision of necessary training so they really had the capacity to cope with this issue appropriately.
Yeah. So Ira, listening carefully to you, you've put policies in place, you've carefully followed up on them, you've looked at upskilling and reskilling a workforce so that they're also having perspective, you know, ambitious perspective. And you've truly rolled that out. That's what I'm hearing from you. So thank you for sharing that with us. Again, to the audience, you know, we hear a lot of very interesting insights from our speakers, but if you feel like anything is missing or you would be interested to point something out from your country, then do share it with us, because this is a session where we would like to learn from each other. And especially learning capacity in women, you know, we are always very good at this. This is one of the feminine leadership skills we definitely treat. Tatiana, you're from Spain, from Telefónica, fantastic company. I know it quite well, know some of your colleagues. You've also put some, you were also part of the Target Gender Equality Initiative in Spain, quite successfully. So can you share with us some of your observations and insights and how things went its way? And for everyone on the call today, I'm very close to Spain. I have lots of Spanish colleagues at Aon. I work for Aon, it's a global risk advisor. And I can tell you, diversity in Spain is tough because it's more a patriarch environment than a matriarch environment. So doing this with patience and care is something which I'm really impressed, Tatiana. So please share with us your story. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret. It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot for the invitation. And really, it's a pleasure for me and for Telefónica to have the opportunity to stay in this forum, in this summit, And we are happy really to share with you our experience, because executive gender diversity for us, it is a priority. It's not now a priority, it's a priority some years ago. And you asked me about the targets, plans, and barriers also. Well, I start with targets if you want. We have, I'm going to speak you a little bit how we have evolved our gender KPIs. In 2018, we had a 23.5% women in leadership position, in executive positions. And at the end of 2021, we have improved, we have increased till 30.4. It means that we have increased 9 points, percentual points, increasing the range. No, it really has been very challenged, because you know that we don't have a lot of women in STEM careers. Then has been very challenged, and we are very proud, but we are convinced that this is not enough. Okay, it's not enough, and we have to fix more ambitious targets. And we have defined again targets for 22-24. And in 24, at the end of 24, we would like to have 33% of women in the executive positions. And also we have another KPI, very, very relevant, that is to have an adjusted gender pay gap on that date from ±1, okay? And when I say adjusted gender pay gap, I mean to compare the average of the total compensation from the women and men, but for similar positions, okay? This is that we define as adjusted gender pay gap. We have also another KPI, very interested, that is to have in 2030 a parity in our company's highest governance bodies. Okay, today we have 33%, but we want definitely to arrive to the parity in 2030. Then if we speak about the barriers we found for this implementation and to achieve all this challenge, I can tell you, Marguerite, that we have a lot of barriers, but I think that we have three that they are the main barriers. Okay, first of all, is something that is structural, because we relate to the technology sector, and is the shortage of women with STEM profiles. This is something structural. It's structural in all countries where we work, and it has a direct reflect in our workforce. At the end of 2021, we had 38% of women in our workforce. Well, this is not our ideal, but we want to continue pushing this, and this is because we are waiting special attention to gender balance, but also we are working all around the world, in all the countries where we work, with girls, okay? We are making a lot of initiatives with the schools, because we want to have more women in those profiles in the next years. Then we think it's really important to work with the schools. Then happily we have unconscious biases. This is another barrier we have. And this is something that is incredible, but even today we have still to face some cliches, some biases about the skills that women in leadership they can have. Okay, this is a clear disadvantage, and we are working very hard in Telefónica to neutralize those prejudices.
Yeah.
And we have cultural programs, communication programs, but we have also training programs, and they are being very, very, and recruitment process. We have changed a lot our basics, because we think this should be completely neutralized.
Yeah.
And last, I think is the most important, and where we have more impact, is the work-life balance and the co-responsibility. Okay, this is critical, because because we need to create employee satisfaction. This has direct impact in the productivity. This is the way we have to attract and retain talent, and we are doing a lot of initiatives, but more than ever after the pandemic, we are implementing flexible and digital ways of working, hybrid models in all companies in all countries. And we have signed an important and relevant agreement with the international unions to guarantee the right to disconnect for all our employees in a role in all countries.
Now, fantastic. Thank you so much, Tatiana, for sharing your observations. I noticed a few things, and I'm seeing also some questions coming in, which I can build into the next question to the next speaker, to Julia. But Tatiana, you mentioned, okay, it's important to know, you all mentioned data. So it's important to make sure that we know what we're talking about. So measurement of data and what the situation is for all kinds of diversity. So not only women empowerment or women or gender equality, but also I'm seeing cultural diverse backgrounds, race, etc., religion, but also generations. It's not only the diversity is broader than only women empowerment, which we discussed today, but it has to do with generation, with international, things are different wherever you are. You need to adjust to the situation sometimes really carefully. Now back to Julia. Julia, there are 3 common barriers which came across in discussions and target gender equality workshops. And those for equal pay, family supportive workplaces, and sexual harassment. This is also a question from the audience. And can you help us to advise what policies and practices did you put in place to overcome these barriers? Julia, back to you.
This is a very interesting question, Margaret, because we really need to start talking about specific actions and practices rather than theories. Some actions that we have taken with a positive impact regarding equal pay, according to us, are the following. First of all, structure interviews and standardization of processes in recruitment. Standardization, as everybody knows, ensures the bias and does not tip the scale. As well as we should embrace AI in recruitment as a helpful tool complementing human decision-making and removing bias. Pay transparency is essential to ensure equal pay. People should know in advance the salary of the job they apply for it. The European Commission is working now in this direction, and I believe that the businesses around the world should embrace this direction. Of course, promoting family supporting workplaces is more of a challenge. And in our efforts to create and foster equality for all our employees and support them in their roles as caregivers, we promote strict work hours. We make certain that everybody is engaged the same number of hours in a day. The reasoning behind this policy is that people would not stand out or offered opportunities for promotion themselves because they work longer hours. Everyone has the same chance to shine. And about sexual harassment, we recently created a digital internal guidebook.
Oh, we are live.
Yes.
We are live, so welcome to TEDx Plattsburgh 2.0, the live stream.
Combined with training to ensure all employees now and to process in places. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, so you mentioned sexual-based harassment and gender-based violence in the workplace. For everyone in the call, it's really interesting that in the Netherlands, the past months we've been really faced with some Me Too sessions, which Me Too circumstances, and the Dutch government has put in place a government commissioner for sexual harassment and Me Too, which is really interesting because this is a person who was highly positioned within the Dutch society and Dutch economic affairs. And she's now in place to address this issue. So I think if you don't have that in your country, you should take a look, because it does take the discussion on that kind of violence also to another level, like what's needed, what trust persons are needed to overcome these issues, etc. But thank you. And the other comment from my end, back to Tatiana's comment on bias, and I saw one of the people also reacting in the chat. Thank you for that. Be aware that if you talk about bias, and some would say I don't have a bias, that it's neurologically untrue. Everyone with a brain, automatically we have biases. So just that you be aware, if you have a brain, and all of us have brains, that's why we're human beings, we have biases because we've grown up with certain circumstances. I'm in the Netherlands, I've grown up with cheese, milk, etc., and pancakes. Now, Julia, you're in Greece. I know Souvlaki and Uzo, etc. So we're all having biases because how we were grown up. Now, anyhow, that's just something to make you aware. Nino, back to you. I have to say, I really, you've also worked with the World Economic, with the Women Empowerment Principles Gender Gap Analysis tool. Can you share some of the observations you had also with the supply chain? This is something which has also come up, the supply chain. How does it work with your supply chain as regards women empowerment?
Absolutely. Thank you. It's actually a great question, and something that we've always worked on, because there's one thing to implement all of this in your team and in your company, which you have more, immediate impact on. And it's another thing to try to extend that and work with your community as well. And we recognize that the social as well as commercial impact of gender equality and inclusivity in our supply chain is extremely important, and empowering women farmers, entrepreneurs, and leaders ensures that our products, services, and spaces are unique, diverse, and innovative, which we really work on. And communicating our commitment to gender equality and inclusivity attracts people with similar mindsets, so like-minded people. Hence, empowering women in our supply chain often sometimes happens very naturally. So the partnerships that we get naturally happens that way. A few partnerships that we're very proud of is the partnership with the Georgian Farmers Association, which is led by a woman. So a few years ago, we decided to say no to imported goods and buy local products where possible. Obviously, there's some things that we are able to buy locally and some are not. And we work with over 100 different farmers. Of 25% are women. Again, we work very hard with the Farmers Association to increase that number, but we do attach two things. So one is local farmer involvement, and the other is making sure that the women involvement within is significant. Another partnership is all of our major arts and culture partnership initiatives are led by women. Our mindset has served as the foundation of Ajara Group's shared value partnership with the Tbilisi Photography and Multimedia Museum, which is curated by a female and is located in one of our hotels, and who's created a cultural hub for the regional importance. Another example is our in-house vertical farm, which is first in-house vertical farm in the city in one of our hotels in Tbilisi, where we grow microgreens right in the center of the city. The project was also proposed by a young female who now operates the vertical farm and is a part of our group. And we basically harvest our own greens. Obviously not everything, but we get fresh greens straight from the vertical farm right into the restaurant, which is part of one of our concepts. And we basically try to empower women in every way we can, even if it's within or external stakeholders. And by empowering female entrepreneurs and leaderships, we have also been supporting an atelier, an in-house atelier in our Ajara Group. So as I mentioned, we run and manage 6 different hotels. Majority of them are a part of Design Hotel, and we really take into consideration and we pay attention to all the little details. And we make all of our uniforms, curtains, everything is made in-house in our in-house atelier, who is run by a female designer. The atelier itself is run by, it provides the company with uniforms, curtains, as I mentioned, and is made and consists of women. And the instigator of this whole project also brought an idea of creating a shop. So we have a shop in our hotels, which aims to further enhance upcycling efforts by creating materials from waste products. Since we create a lot of our products, when we realized that we had some, not really waste, but some material that was left over, we decided to why not make different, products and create a shop where we would upcycle and use those materials as well. So majority of the products sold are made in-house by our atelier, but the other products like jewelry and whatnot that we don't make, we partner up with female companies or female entrepreneurs in order to bring in their products as well. I've listed
fantastic, but it's interesting to see that it's interesting to see that SDG 5, as we all know, is gender equality, but SDG 17 is partnerships, and you really have made it work on the partnerships, also with other SDGs on circularity and sustainability. And before I move to, thank you for sharing that with us, really important, because this is an all-women's panel. Ira, you're also internationally involved. So before I'm going to give the floor to you on this topic, I would like to ask the audience some questions to engage them again. Like, anyone familiar with Beyoncé in the audience today? So let me see some clapping hands if you know Beyoncé. I think I should have a lot of clapping hands, otherwise people are no. Oh, here they come. So Beyoncé, here we go. Yes, very good. Now Beyoncé, and I want to share this story because it has a background. So Beyoncé was in 2019 in the news because she actually did a huge contract for her apparel. But the reason why she was in the news was not so much because she had a huge contract for apparel, but because she actually declined an offer from another company. And that other company was Reebok. She went into business with Adidas, but she declined Reebok. And she made it known to the public that she declined Reebok because they didn't have a diverse pitch to her. She said, "You don't represent my values." And that's very important in today's business. If you take a look at the reputation of companies, that you need to represent the values of your customers. Why do I raise this issue? Anyone familiar with why I'm raising this issue? I think it's difficult, but I'm sharing it now. Otherwise, we have a time lapse. It's because Reebok is actually a subsidiary of Adidas. So what we see here is that even if you have a very much diverse strategy, which Adidas had, it doesn't imply that it's actually being applied in subsidiaries or in other nations if it's not your head office. And this is the questions I would like to pose to Ira. Ira, you're internationally involved. So can you help us a little bit with, how did you progress also local realities in your global strategy as a company?
It's a great question, Marguerite, and I think it really is very relevant as to how companies and strategies are actually viewed. You can't be progressive in one area of your business and not progressive in the other if you're really going to make real progress in any of these areas. Now, for Lucara, the vast majority of our workforce actually resides in Botswana. 99% of our employees are born in Botswana and educated in Botswana, which is something we're very proud of. For our executive team, and we're a very small team, which is largely Canadian, it was really important that those executives sit on the Lucara Botswana board, which is our local subsidiary. So we all sit on that board along with Lucara Botswana's managing director, who, by the way, is the first female managing director of a mine in Botswana, together with our general manager of the diamond mine itself. So together, we actually review policies and procedures annually to ensure that they really are in line with international standards, policies, procedures, and are looking to address emerging issues. And most importantly, they represent our core values, which we have developed together. We also have the Human Resources and Safety, Health, Environment, and Community Relations departments reporting to that board on a number of important KPIs, which we review and set annually, including the gender equality strategy. We also undertake anonymous employee satisfaction surveys, the results of which are again reviewed at that board level. It's really important that we understand the culture of our organization, and setting that tone from the top and really digging in deep to understand that is really imperative if again, you are going to make progress in any of these areas. The other thing I would just add is that, that's all been quite inward looking on Lucara Botswana, but equally important for us is how we engage with our communities of interest. So we have regular COTLA meetings with 19 communities where we're actually listening to the community and hearing about their needs and ensuring that we are working, with all of our efforts locally in Botswana in relation to sustainability. And like NINO, we've got a lot of initiatives going on locally. Food security and agriculture is really important to the country. So we are thinking about, life beyond our mine and how we can be impactful and sustainable for the future. So maybe I'll leave it there. I know we're getting short on time.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to share it. So very good for you to state that you talk to the people themselves to get to know what's going on. Tatiana, we are very conscious now of time, but I want to definitely have your last comments on what you did also on creating, advancing STEM, etc. in your company. You already referenced it. Can you give us your last comments? Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we put in place very concrete actions and concrete levers because we think it is important not only establish development opportunities and mentorship, if not establish concrete levers. We have our executive gender diversity KPIs that I spoke before. We have implemented a global process for recruitment where all the vacancies we have to be very transparent with executive vacancies with them, and we have to publish and to put interviews panels diverse, etc., and always present a qualified female in the short stage. And then we have a diversity council. Okay, this is led by our CFO, and we have 10 sponsors, 10 of the more senior directors in Telefónica. We have the meeting 4 times a week, and we define our diversity strategy, not only regarding gender, also of course regarding disability, regarding young talents, race, etc. And we put a special focus in the objective we have fixed.
Yeah,
And
fantastic. I think I'm getting warnings here that we have to be conscious of time. So I'm sorry to cut you short, Adjara, but I invite everyone to check the website of Telefónica. Also, the company has huge, nice policies in place. Julia has put in place, NINO, EIRA, and TATIANA. So I want to thank you very much for contributing to this panel today. I liked the comment in the commentary that we say, leadership traits need to be degendered. It needs to be female, male, and some are male, masculine, as we say in the Netherlands, or feminine. But at the end of the day, you need to be a good leader. You are all good leaders. You've shown the way, and thank you for showing the way to this audience. It was such a pleasure to be with you. And I want to thank also the audience for being so engaged with us. Thank you again. Clapping hands for all of you being present. Do reach out to the speakers today on LinkedIn if you want to stay in touch with them. Thank you so much, and back to the organization. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.